This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Well, hello, everybody, one and all, for coming on in. It is, of course, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Of course, I am BMR. How is everybody doing this afternoon in the great state? Well, I'm in the great state of Michigan. Wherever you are at around the world in the United States, welcome to the show. Have a great show. Good friend of mine, a guy very knowledgeable. Y'all heard of him, Barry Littleton, joins us shortly for a fantastic show. Of course, if this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch found on YouTube, The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast found on YouTube, Paranormal Paul, Donnie Cho Says Stuff, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, and Tea with the Diva, Miss Danielle Diva on YouTube as well. And of course, Barry Littleton has a YouTube channel. Now, you guys, it's a very intricate name for his channel. Pay attention. It's called Barry Littleton. You can find Barry on YouTube. Great show. Awesome. I've been a subscriber for years. Go check out Barry. Joining me, of course, in Studio B is Tex Wesson. He'll be joining us shortly. Before I do some other newsworthy notes I have to bring up, which I typically do before every show, I always got to thank the folks about my book. My books, plural, Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Books 1 and Books 2, both found on Amazon. For all that bought it, please leave a review. It does help promote book sales, so thank you in advance for that. Just type Bigfoot Michigan Rob on Amazon. Also, as you've seen in our little introduction earlier, we have something going on. Yeah, it's September 19th and 20th, the Crossing Realms Conference held at the Eagleton Civic Center in Richmond, Missouri. And this, I got to tell you, you guys, the response for this has been overwhelming. We've got some fantastic guest speakers lined up for you guys. Josh Hurd, Heather Mosier from Small Town Monsters, William Lunsford, Ronald Murphy, Dr. Dean Bertram, Greg Ogles, Dan and Frankie from the Haunted Garage, who will be bringing a haunted car. Sir Brian Bowden will be there. We just added Martin Groves from his fabulous experiences at the Land Between the Lakes. Also, feature guests Ken Gerhardt, Dana Stricker, Brent Thomas, Ryan Edwards, Mike Famillion, Christopher Garantano, Linda Eastburn, David Glidden, and Miguel from Sasquatch Theory. That is quite a lineup. And of course, your host, myself, Tex, Brandy, Krista, Monica, Diva, Danielle Diva, Randy Gilbert, Donnie Cho, and Jason McLean. We're all going to be there. And with that being said, I'm going to bring up Mr. Weston as he adjusts his beard and hat. What's up, Tex?
Hey. Let's get our woo on.
Yeah, we got Barry, a little woo, we got everything with Barry. I title this is a smorgasbord of high strangeness with Barry, because we can start with Dogman and we can end up talking aliens. We can end up talking about the afterlife. We got everything in store for you, for your entrees, your main entrees. Don't forget, the super chat's open, a great way to help support what we do around here. You can become a BMR pirate. Join today, mateys. Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. You get a picture of me in the chat room with a bandana. Yes, that's what you get. Enough of me, enough of the advertisements. We're bringing up Mr. Barry.
Oh, that's quite the introduction, my friend.
Yeah, Barry.
First, you put down the name of my YouTube channel, and then you
Yeah,
then you use the word smorgasbord. I mentioned earlier, I've not heard that word since I watched that movie as a kid. What is it, Cinderfella with Jerry Lewis? And the code word was smorgasbord.
Yes.
Oh man.
And yes,
anyway,
really,
how you guys doing, man? Appreciate
we're doing
the
great.
invite.
And quick shout out to Randy. My computer took a dump 2-3 days ago. I'm like, Randy, I don't want to spend $1,300 on a computer. Just can't do it. Well, Randy hooked me up with my first one, and I spilled water on my old one, and it fried out the components. Yeah, I had it right on the tower like a dummy, and I knocked it over, and I had to get a new computer. So Randy, in his wisdom, found me a nice one that I got for very cheap. It's actually the same one Randy has, and it's a refurbished product, which I do recommend because this is my second one. And instead of spending $1,300, I spent $260 straight from Amazon. Works like a champ so far. So thanks for Randy's assistance on that, man. But yeah, so yeah, Barry, man, what you been up to?
Oh, honestly, I'm not. I'm trying not to ruffle more feathers than I already have in these communities because I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You know what I mean? And lately, it's been more. I've been dealing with some of the subterfuge that I think is going on as far as the narrative that deals with being quote unquote a contactee and the different type of contactees that we have. We have different types, all right? And we have some that have negative experiences only. We have some that have positive. We have some that, like myself, we have some that have both. And I think that needs to start being incorporated more. And I think I've ruffled some feathers because when it comes to some of the quote unquote SSP testimony and some of the 21 back things, I'm sorry, but I think some of that is a psyop that is done by neuroweaponry, neuroprogramming that can be actually starting to now, that it actually generates memories, dreams into memories, and the memories into reality. And they're implementing memories on people. And they're doing that to rewrite the whole narrative, I think, of what contactee is going on. And, I've been dealing, there's a new company, it's called Mind Nexus. And what they're going to be doing is they charge, it's, I believe, $500 for individual scans and $1,000 for individual console. But what they're doing is they're using like a multispectral analysis machines, very delicate machines, to test if a person is generating frequencies that are non-natural from their body, like scalar frequencies, RF frequencies that are out of sync with what the human body should be generating. And then they're able to actually trace certain of those frequencies to certain corporations. And this has been going on for a very long time. And that's just what would be somewhat transparent. You can imagine what's going on in the private sector. And even this target weaponry for people that are born that will be contactees, telepaths, clairvoyants, they're doing targeted attack on those people. And it's neuroprogramming. And I think it's being used to rewrite the whole narrative of being a contactee. And I'm not saying that those experiences don't exist and don't happen, okay? But a lot of them, I believe, they would seem as real as anything else. But I think that they're generating into a hive mind, and it's a whole type of technology and science that's come out that's been going on a long time about that. So I'm trying to dismiss anything, but I think that needs to be incorporated instead of just dismissing those of us that have had positive contact. I think I've ruffled a few feathers, so it is what it is. I'm not here to be liked. You know what I mean? Sadly, it'd be cool, but it doesn't work that way.
Well,
that's some. When you start talking about frequencies and this is a whole new level of manipulation, man. I mean, that's some scary stuff.
Yeah. Tomorrow sorry, go ahead, Tech. Sorry.
No, yeah. I was just saying it's just that because I've been, my big worry about all the psyops and everything has a lot to do with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And but this that you're talking about, because I've been getting into the whole psyops thing here recently. That's just, I don't like that at all.
They've got technology like, for example, the audio spotlight. They can isolate that and generate these, what everybody's talking about right now, the V2K, the voice to skull technology. And that's using technology to get in people's mind and produce sounds, But the truth is, the demonic has been doing that since the beginning. Yep. A lot of our thoughts are our own thoughts. They've been speaking to us for a long time, using that as manipulation. Now it's gone to the technology level. And, that even goes what you're saying there, Tex, also text us into tomorrow. I'm going to release a video. I don't really technically make videos anymore, but it's one I just never released. And it's going to be it's called Implants. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the implants that came from, Dr. Lear. And then also some of the ones that are coming from these new corporations. And when I mentioned that Mind Nexus company, they scan for implants like that. These implants are, thousands and, $100,000 implants. People can start looking that stuff up and tracing this down. How much of that are people being implanted with that so that they hear voices, so that they're more susceptible to virtual reality scenario technology?
Wow. Are you suggesting kind of with this then, Barry, that let's say that you're having a natural experience from some dimensional being, but now you're suggesting that it's even being controlled by the outside world?
I'm saying it's being intercepted, I think.
By us.
Okay. It's like this, all right? So I've mentioned this before.
Okay.
And it's a term that I use that is actually a term that I stole from Doctor Who, Artron, but Artron energy. But what it is when someone is on board one of these crafts or around some of these beings, if it's the ones that's kind of the higher beings or the different ones, the more positive ones I've been around, it does something. It irradiates the cells of your body. Especially some of these craft use black holes, Makos, and they're operating through those. It does something through the human body when you're on board it. Okay, and when I'm around other contactees, I can sense this on them. I don't know, but you two guys are pretty cool. So you might have man, I really digged Highlander.
Yeah,
especially the series with Paul, Adrian Paul. That was really good. But they did a good deal representing when immortals within about 30 feet of each other, they start getting that buzz. They sense each other. Knowing basically somebody might be there to cut your head off. Or hope it's a good guy, a McLeod, one of the good ones.
Right.
But as far as contactees, I can feel and sense them kind of like that. And it's a trip when it's the people that tell me, I'm not like you. I never had experiences like you. You sure about that? I feel that energy coming off of them and ask them, have you seen a UFO? Well, yeah, actually I have. Could you see it and maybe other people couldn't? And actually, yeah. How long did it last? Maybe a minute? Contact. But it happens on this different frequency, a conscious event. And, and it's such a fast frequency that it may take a day later, 2 days later, that person is having dreams about weird beings or something going on, and it's actually a time lag between the contact and the way we process it consciously. That's why some things about hypnosis can be very useful when going down to the theta. You can retrieve some of these things that the superconscious or the higher consciousness that records all that stuff. So does the subconscious, but the superconscious really does. You can access that. That's anyway. But point being, so I don't know, and I'm not trying to dismiss anybody's claims or anything like that. But I'm saying that something's being done to people. They're putting people into a hive mind. This is technology that actually exists, and we need to be aware of that. A lot of times, these people will tell me, there's another me, and I think I aggravated some people because I got into a little debate on an interview I'd done recently. And I get a little irritated by that because sometimes I've had these people come at me like, oh, you weren't part of the program. You just can't accept it. No, I was not. That's how I know. I went through my experiences. I went through what is the screen memory? Was I exposed to them? I learned about them. That's how I got into hypnosis. And I live in the air capital of the world. So there's an Air Force base on the end of my town. So I was very into is it Big Brother messing with me? Is that what's happening to me? And then this is going back to the 90s. There's a lady came forward by the name of Carla Turner, if you're familiar with her, and she had very negative experiences. Okay, and she wound up dying under weird circumstances. So did her husband. And she wrote a couple books. One was called Taken, and they actually made a sci-fi miniseries on that. And another book called Masquerading Angels. That's another one. Yeah, and that one's in. And and she was dealing with this virtual reality scenario, virtual reality technology she'd been exposed to. Fellas, I pay attention to that because in one of my experiences, if I have the picture close, I've been exposed to virtual reality scenario technology in one of my experiences from these beings. And it looked like this helmet thing. And they were telling me so we could have a frame of reference because we're off. And then they started warning me that lower, like vibrational beings have taken that and used that technology. They perverted it to deceive people. This was a long time ago, fellas. This is like 94. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to really digest what I'm being told during that, but it made me pay close attention to virtual reality came out in our society big time. I've been always watching it. And knowing then that I've been around some of these beings, and this is talking real stuff, that when you're really in the presence of a non-human for real, no BS, okay, sometimes, first of all, if you don't have a frame of reference to what you're seeing, it trips you out. It's a mind blow, okay? Secondly is when we're in their biofield, and some of them may look humanoid as you and me. There's not much to distinguish that they're not people like you and I, but they've got this thing in their energy field, in their biofield, that can be, you can find it, it almost feels like elation to us, and I see that's why in old times, I think some of these beings were, hailed as like angels and gods, because you get around them and it feels like what the swamis and gurus call Shakti Pat, which is when the guru touches the person and it has a Kundalini release and all the chakras start turning. And a lot of times these cats will hang out with these gurus praying that they'll give them Shakti Pat. Or if you're familiar with Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan used to slap him in the back, in the middle of the back, and push his Asimbus point, push him into almost another reality. It happened several times to him. Same type of technology, or same type of technique. But when you get around some of these beings, just their biofield seems to do it to us. And at the same token, then when you're not face to face with them anymore, not in that biofield anymore, that it starts to deteriorate. The contact, you were just with someone, you just had experience. But the further you get away from the event horizon, the more it starts getting cloudy and like fragmented. And for a long time, I wondered, I was like, man, is that a defense mechanism some of these beings have made to defend themselves? Or is it just a natural process of their vibration being faster? You know what I'm saying? Just food for thought I'm throwing out to y'all. I can only speak from my experiences on some of these, but I didn't have these SSP experiences. Right. Sorry, it wasn't like that. I wasn't going to the moon. I wasn't fighting the reptilians. It wasn't that stuff. I wasn't manning Mars. So I'm not putting that stuff down, but that just isn't what my experiences were like. So I try to understand and bring it together without so much skepticism. But when it comes to neuroprogramming, we've got to be on top of this stuff.
So let me ask you this. Because what I worry about, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here. You're talking about messages sent, via vibration, via, chips, all this kind of stuff. And the whole virtual reality thing, and then we start talking about the AI, and the more it's getting into the social media, the harder it is to recognize stuff. What the stuff that they could be feeding us is just endless. And it's not, and I don't think it's just the aliens or whatever. And I think we got some in-house stuff going on, if you want to call it that way.
Absolutely. Human demons look just like you and I. Yeah. And they're probably most likely real nerdy people, look like Gilbert and Lewis from Revenge of the Nerds, but they're these horrible people that have this ability, this financial manipulation and things that, that Real quick. Oh, sorry, you gonna say something wrong? Sorry.
Well, I was, but go ahead. I can wait.
No, I was just, I was, when it comes to, like, for example, the whole Sasquatch thing, I know we're going to talk about the mindspeak thing, so we might as well go into it now, and I kind of sent a little video to tease you to mess with text, because I was like, this guy from Sasquatch Theory, that's their name, they had that older gentleman on there that talked about the mindspeak with them. I would call it telepathy, but what I liked about his story is that they're right there on his property, right within presence, and he's picking that up, so he knows it's coming from them in that case, because otherwise it would be more nebulous, like what happened to me. I got this mind speak from this individual, this elder, when I was in the cabin at the Sept Ranch. I never actually saw any Sasquatch, but they were literally heckling me the whole time I'm out there. You know what I mean? It's like they're right there, and I was just tripped out, man. And it's one thing, I know I got to sound real tough now. Man, about 3:30 a.m., you walking around out there, and ain't nobody really around. Everybody's asleep, and you feel like you're being watched in the trees and all the space out there. Man, that's nerve-wracking to me. And I'm somebody that practices the invisibility, and I know something about those techniques. And it's like I'm getting smoked with those techniques myself. It's unnerving to a degree. So I can't say once I got the mind speak, I had reached out telepathically, but I can't say for sure it was a Sasquatch. But it did a pretty good imitation. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, for whatever reason. But that example there, I think, is a little more accurate.
Before I forget, I do want to revisit that, because I've got something on that as well. But I just want to go back a minute before the show keeps going on. Was a couple of things when you're talking about the psyops, which really hit home to me. And Tex heard this before, which makes sense. And even today, now with what you spoke about earlier, there's about a decade ago, there was this new tower put up on a very ritzy part of town on a freeway that you travel through. In the city of Detroit, the inner city of Detroit, there's a lot of freeway shootings. There's a lot of road rage. People just shoot each other at random in Detroit. They do. It's kind of scary sometimes, especially if you're out at 4 o'clock in the morning. You should not be on the roads of the freeways traveling through the inner city, not necessarily downtown, but the surrounding suburbs, I guess. So on this part of town, they put up these towers, and this is a part of Oakland County, and these are people that they're the suits. They're the business people. They're the doctors. They're the lawyers. They're the people that live in the $1 million homes. These people, at first, this tower was camouflaged. It looked like a huge pine tree, but it just showed up. So it wasn't natural. It was put there. Do you know, since that tree, the tower has been put up, as I mentioned, Detroit, the city of Detroit, boom, very high percentage of road rage and shootings. Do you know this part of Oakland County, the ritzy part, ever since this tower was put up, it is the #1 most traveled piece of stretch for 3 miles where there's road rage and incidents amongst this group of people. There was a survey or research that people were digging into this and saying that this was an actual governmental experiment where they put off these vibes or these frequencies into travelers that made them do crazy things. And they ended up doing that in a very posh part of town for about a 3-mile stretch. Experiment. I mean, if that's true, that's some scary things that's going on with the alleged ABC agencies of the government.
I mean, it's similar. That's similar to what they call the Havana syndrome. And also, which is targeting an individual, but I mean, these scalar frequencies that they're hitting people with en masse, probably people are going through. And some of this technology isn't always the separate things that we think. There's something called the Tesla howitzer scalar interferometer, and basically what that is like the Star Wars program. And if you remember that, when that whole thing was suggested, the Star Wars program not just could shoot stuff down, it could also generate a defense shield as well. So that type of technology is real. And when you start looking into the Havana syndrome and with the audio spotlight and stuff like that, or just these different scalar frequencies they can generate from an antenna like that, like you're talking about, it's it's terrifying. I mean, that even goes into the Project HARP type stuff. You know what I mean? Those ionizations and it's too bad. You know, it's too bad we lived in such a concocted world that we have to even be worried about this stuff. You know what I mean? It's really too bad. It is, and that is it's demonic, and it comes from individuals, like I said, that incarnate just like you and I, and they're in control down here, and they're just tearing up this biosphere. They're keeping this a war place so that we remain food for these inorganic beings that have been feeding on us forever. I mean, it's endless. You get look how much trauma right now. There's so much trauma available for everybody on this planet that it walks around like a member of the population. And you have the negative self, and so much of our energy goes into the negative self, the thoughts that are ours that are negative to ourselves, negative to about ourselves. Then you've got these others that give us thoughts, these external invisible forces that tear us down. Listen to what schizophrenics say about the voices that they hear. You know what I mean? The horrible things. It's always just denigrating things.
Yeah.
And then you've got this negative self that does that. And then we get some good trauma introduced. And the first decisions you make during trauma are not good ones. You normally condemn yourself and judge yourself in different ways. And it gives you like a program, and a negative identity is what people call them. And they go on. You know what I mean? So the negative self fractures into all these different negative identities. And so much of our energy goes into maintaining that a lot of it we're unaware of, because the conscious mind comes up and grabs a negative identity and puts it in the subconscious. Subconscious grabs it. And it's just in there running in the background, just like these damn phones. You know, I got this thing that says the apps are asleep. Man, no, they're not, because the phone is still draining, man. It's getting hot. All sorts of stuff is happening, you know. So
does that drive you crazy? I get that. I look at all the time. That stuff.
Yeah,
no, you're trying to trick me, is what you're telling me, really.
Yeah. You know, but in turn, so much of our energy goes into that, and we're energy beings. It stops us from being really who and what we are. You know what I mean? And some of these voices and these things, they've even given us our religions and stuff. You know what I mean? It's very, very needs to be looked at very deeply, you know?
You know, I have to wonder and 2025 is starting off absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about negativity. I've never seen it like this in the first month of a year. It's like all the it's almost like all the bad stuff that's going to happen for an entire year is going to happen in the first month. You know, I mean, look at all the plane crashes, you know, the shootings, the bombing, everything, you know. And I mean, it started in December, but I don't know, man. There's something different. There's something. It's almost like there's been a switch flipped somewhere. You know, it's like they let us cruise through the last several years, and they turned the volume up to 10 for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but I really think that we're being manipulated more than ever.
You know, what worries me when you say that, you know, is worrisome is that, you know, we hear so much about the Mandela effect and like yada yada, but really those are time shifts and time edits. And they happen during times of high solar activity. And we've just come from a cycle, a lot of high solar activity. And one of these timelines, these time edits, that whatever force it is that's always trying to push us to, is one of nuclear war. It comes up again and again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's obviously being intervened in whatever way, but it's always attempt to push us back to that. You know, some type of a cataclysm. we got another meteor that's another asteroid that's cruising around now.
Yeah.
Oh, it should smash into us in 2025. It's.
Well, I just did a show on the Doomsday Clock, and we are closer to midnight than we've ever been. We're 89 seconds away from midnight on the Doomsday Clock. And I really got to digging into the Doomsday Clock and all the criteria that they use to set the time on the Doomsday Clock. And I knew, before I even looked at it, I knew it was going to be in there. I just wondered how much it was going to be mentioned in there. And you've got the nuclear race, you've got the climate rate, the climate change, you got this, you got that, and there, you have disruptive. One of the categories is disruptive technology, and I didn't know that at the time before I started looking into it, that was one of the main criteria. But AI is not just mentioned in that; it's mentioned in another criteria that you wouldn't think it would be in. But they mention AI being part of this twice in two different criteria. What does that tell you? Because now I don't know about the whole Doomsday Clock, and I don't know how much I don't know how much weight it carries. But if you look at it and look at what all they're using to determine that time, it's scary, folks. It is scary because I don't know. I'm hung up on this AI thing. It scares the crap out of me because it's getting so hard to tell the difference between what we used to say in the day, Barry, what's real, what's Memorex, right?
Yeah, I used to enjoy putting up like enjoyable pictures on Facebook. I hardly do it anymore because I have to spend time and running through the AI generator thing, man, to make sure it's not AI. Like, man, it's like, and it's that one, it takes the fun out of half of it. You can't just enjoying something that's just beautiful anymore,
Right.
But when dealing with AI, and I like to go back because, like, back in the late 70s, but especially the early 80s, they wanted to be so technologically revolutionary like we are right now. They wanted it bad, and they gave it to us in entertainment. The first AI that I technically saw was on Buck Rogers. It was attached to Tweaky, the biggie, but not him, but he had the thing attached to him, Dr. Theopolis, that actually was a council member. And they said the whole council of Earth were these little cases like Dr. Theopolis, and that's what was the Earth Council. And that's the first time they're really showing us AI in that type of a way.
Yeah.
And then right at that same time, you've got War Games come out with the Whopper. The Whopper, can we play a game? What was it? A nuclear war.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
That was a big. So I thought, for a long time, I thought that's what a quantum computer looked like. The Whopper. Yeah, it doesn't. It actually looks more like the console in the middle of a TARDIS on Doctor Who. Very odd how those quantum computers look, especially the IBM one. But then the next one would be the big one, of course, one of my favorite, and it's around 81, 82, 83, Knight Rider. I mean, if you think about it, especially outside of the turbo boost, everything else on that car is now somewhat doable. What they call the molecular bond shell. We've got metamaterials now that will do that. They had GPS on that thing. It was plotting courses and doing all that. They were Skyping, just like Star Trek. They were Skyping. You know what I mean? Him and Devin were Skyping all the time. So a lot of things that car was able to do, microwave phones and stuff like that, are stuff we can do now. Like when you look at Star Trek, even especially not just the original one, they're sitting up there with Bluetooth on. They look weird. But when you look at like the original, the next generation, starting at 86, I think it was, 87.
Yeah.
On Picard's desk, he's got a bunch of iPads. They're using iPads.
Well, and another thing is, these the computer screens that are clear and they're touch screen and stuff. You remember but back in the day, that was whole big technology, in the movies and stuff. That's real, man. There's so much stuff. If you look back over in the media over the past 4 decades, they knew this stuff was coming, because it was already there. It just wasn't released to us yet. Because I think we're 30, 40 years behind what they're releasing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 50 probably.
Yeah.
When it comes down to AI, taking some of the classifications out of it, okay, I think that we got to look much more, and this goes back to my experiences. There's a very definite fungal mycelium component to my experiences. There's a component to the craft that is mycelium and fungal. That's not all. There's a composite that they grow these over these black holes, but that's one of the part is a fungi mycelium. And, I took that and people laughed at me. In 2014, when I first came forward, I was talking about this. I got mocked until they started announcing Mars saying, or NASA saying, we're going to use mycelium houses on the moon and on Mars if we get there. And then people started finding out they're using mycelium to actual repair infrastructure in cities. Right. So dealing with that, okay. And I want to say, okay, bringing into, like I said, taking the classifications out of it. I wondered how much that this deals with the fungal and mycelium component. I had given our friend Jessica a blind target of the moai on Easter Island, and it was like a 3-phase target, so I have 3 different coordinates, and one of them was what were the moai, one were how were they made, and the other was how were they transported from one side of that island to the other. And the natives say that the elders asked them to get up and walk, and they walked across, supposedly. But in this data, she keeps picking up. She has no idea what she's looking at, but she's picking up AI, and in fungi, mycelium, again and again. Okay. And when dealing with that, so it's saying that these moai and how they were carved were by these beings that were coming out of these micro vortexes, using what you and I would call, our science will call, acoustic scalpels, which is what I think is also used on a lot of the cattle mutilations. Those new acoustic scalpels don't leave any type of a cauterization of the wounds. That's something that on those cattle mutilations you see. Anyway, that's the technology they were using. But then, taking it forward, but that's just a trick, because I know that there's a connection already to mycelium. So I went further with this. I started looking up recently in the University of Cincinnati, one of those places, but these engineers have made this announcement of these bio robots. They call them something. I've got it written down somewhere. I won't look it up now, but it's the name of these hybrid robots that actually have a mycelium brain, a mushroom brain. They're using the it's a type of ocean mushroom, a mushroom like an oyster, that they're taking the fungus, the mycelium of that, and using. And what they're using is using light to actually stimulate this brain of this mycelium robot to move around and do things, and to impulse it, to actually control it. And it's fascinating. So you start looking at this, and I linked people to it after we got them doing the show, and people get on there and see this thing getting up and walking. And I was like, are we looking at primitive moai? The past is repeating itself, or whatever the case is. It's really interesting when little things like this come forward. But then again, that takes us into mycelium. And I said earlier, removing some of the classifications out of it. Are you too familiar with what used to be called Wetiko or Wetiko? Weitiko.
I've heard of it.
I've heard of that.
They call it sometimes the mind virus.
Okay.
And that was supposed to be something. And when you actually read about that and start looking into that, it's a fungal component to that also. And but it's more of a mind virus that takes over people to make people negative, almost like dark force. Okay. But it's got this fungal component, Wetiko. And I think that is like the AI that's here also that's doing that. And I'll be honest with you fellas, I used to think it was oil, unrefined oil. I suspected that unrefined oil does not come from where we say, where we think, where we're told fossilization, and that it's actually an organism that was trapped under the earth from a past war. I used to think that. And I really thought that when I was suspected, I guess is a better term.
Let me
Especially
ask
when I saw that oil spill. What was it? God, it was in late '90s. The oil spill where
the
Valdez spill.
Yeah, and you see and knowing that just a quart of oil will contaminate, like, was there 50,000 gallons of drinking water? And when you saw the way the oil reacts with water, which is Earth's main thing, you know what I mean? It looked like almost like an organism to be been released. Not saying I'm correct, but it's just one of the things that I kind of pick up on.
You know, I hear you there, Barry, and I had to ask you something too, because again, we're like kind of, this is such a great show. I got all these thoughts in my mind when you're talking earlier about the contactees, you yourself being one. We've spoken with people, we've heard people talk about it, and we talk about the being hypnotized, and then these past images or regressions. And there's certain people that, as a contactee, and again, I don't know if this is manufactured or if this is brought up through hypnotism, where they have seen into the past, seen things. On the Dave Scott show, there's a man that goes on there all the time that says he's a contactee, and he says he had dinner with Napoleon. He's also said things that he predicted in the future that came true. How much of that do you believe is actually happening? Where you go into a past life, and then you get these images of the future. Is there anything to that, or is that something manipulated we bring upon ourselves?
As far as past life regression, I've done quite a few of those, and those are what they are. The soul. There's different types. There's informational past life regression. There's also life between lives. And life between lives, a person will tell you, like, where were they just before they came here? Where were they before that? You know what I mean? That's when you start going back in that way, and that's reliable. As far as these people giving, the predictions of the future, look, man, I used to ask these experiences, especially when these beings are giving you information before you can ask it. I'm always trying to ask about what's going to happen in the future. And, I had visions when I was younger. I would have visions sometimes, like, of all this glass on somewhere looked like probably Texas, like all maybe the skyscrapers that impacted and all the glass that crashed, that type of a cataclysm. It used to worry me because around that time, there was this guy named Gordon Michael Scallion that came forward on the Art Bell show. And he's the one that made those world maps that people are passing around now, with everything flooded. Like, it looks like kind of like, sorry to sound geeky, but it looks like the map that Gene Hackman showed Christopher Reeve, Lexington, Otisville. He said, he's going to knock the whole thing off with the nuclear missile. It kind of looks like that, though, the map that he had. Okay, and it really frightened a lot of people. But I got nervous because he said he'd seen glass on these major cities. I'd seen something like that too. So I got kind of worried. But you know what? He had one or two predictions that came true, and that's why Art was so tipped to him, and then nothing else. Edgar Casey had a few, then nothing else. And when I ask these beings what's going to happen in the future, they never say nothing. They don't tell me. And I was thinking, is it because they don't know? No more than we really do, and you've got multiple timelines, so they don't know.
They say that Nostradamus was like 3% accurate, and I don't believe he was I have a hard time with that myself, Barry. But I have to ask you this: I think people are getting information from somewhere for certain things, because and maybe it's just me being too open-minded with this, but I could go back as a kid in my as 10, 11, 12, teenage years, early 20s, whatever. And these movies come out, and I'm not going to give Hollywood any credit, because Hollywood today is just totally weird. I mean, come on, there's all sorts of evil going on there. But you see these movies that come out that at the time we think is science fiction and make believe, But a decade later, a lot of these things actually come to fruition, making the movie kind of like something that was an actual event when it started out as fiction. Even like that movie 20 years ago about the outbreak. It was called Outbreak, about the virus.
Oh yeah, with
You
Dustin
know,
Hoffman.
yeah, and maybe that's just coincidence. Great minds, we can all come up with great things to talk about. But do you think there's people that actually do know, have their pulse on events 20 years, a decade down the road? Because the AI that we have right now was invented 20 years ago. And there's a better AI that was developed 30 years ago. They slowly bleed it into our society.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you've got some that can get impressions of the future.
Okay.
But as a whole, it's not a very skilled science. It's not anything you can rely on. Anything any of these people say, and you'll be lucky if any of it comes true. Let's be honest. Between the three of us, how many future predictions have we all heard that? Excuse me, shit never happens. Nothing happens.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. I'm not upset about that. These are horrible futures.
Barry, the world is supposed to come to the end 3 times in my lifetime, and we're still here. So, knock on wood.
The first time I heard that, it was 8/8/88. All the 8 days. We're supposed to be gone that day. Right. Then it was Y2K. We're finished at Y2K. Yeah. Then it was 2012. It could be done in 2012. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I think I started hearing 2021 was another one.
Yeah.
But there's people that you've got forces. They're trying to jump to that, or jump us to something where there's a solar flare that happens that destroys all the power grids on this planet for a couple of years.
Right.
Both in orbit and on the surface. It'll be anarchy here in about 24 hours. Total anarchy. And it's things like that that I'm trying to hope that there's forces and things that stop us from going to timelines like that. And that's what the good intention, what they call, the collective consciousness of humanity, or the morphogenic field, is actually being generated enough of the positive to where it's stopping these things from happening. Because it's coming up again and again, and I'm hoping that, this is the time that we can change that outcome. But these things that people call deja vu, sometimes that can be a fact that you might be around some institution, some private place that's using time technology, and you're sensitive to this changing in the timelines a little bit. The time edits, you can detect it. Some of us can detect that stuff. You know what I mean? It's just light. We don't know exactly what it is, but one of those byproducts can be deja vu. It's not just you did the exact same thing in another lifetime that you're doing right there and it's crossing through. It's being exposed to time technology. And I've been saying this since 2014. There is no transparency in the time control technologies, time technologies. There's hardly any transparency at all. And unless you get something like the MRI that comes into the hospital or into our lives, we don't really catch what time technology is, And I speak in a way that's less conspiratorial, not as much as looking glass and things like that, but things that are more transparency. Like when I talk about targeted dream incubation. Okay, what that is actually dream engineering and making dreams into memories, those memories into reality. And they're doing that in a hive mind. And one of the companies that is somewhat transparent about it is Dormio, Dormio. You can look them up and you see what kind of dream engineering they're doing, how they're influencing people. But that's just what we're being shown, like you guys are just saying. That's 50 years behind already. So, I'm still tripped out. One of my favorite shows, favorite movies ever was Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid and Max von Sydow. And technically, Max von Sydow, Novotny would have been Ingo Swann. Ingo Swann was doing exactly what Max von Sydow was doing from that institution on that show. Very interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of the movies I wish they'd remake with today's technology. That'd be freaking awesome.
Do you remember one? He texted you. Remember one called Looker? Remember Looker?
Looker
with Robert Finney and that guy that looked like the Tom Selleck knockoff Nick Rozovich. He had a gun that was a light gun, and he boom, and everything boom, 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 and they'd be losing time. A light gun that gave you missing time. Yeah, it dealt with the optical nerves, and they also had something there where they're giving these models. They're doing a CGI scan of them. And then, so the people in the commercials, the models weren't really them. It was like just completely CGI, artificial AI. This movie's like 1981. It's called Looker. Yeah.
I got to look that one.
See, it's hard for me to believe that they didn't know something about, that they didn't know something about what was on the horizon. Because I don't know, maybe these Hollywood type, maybe they, because they're rubbing elbows with people all the time. Maybe somebody let something slip and that would be a good movie, and because when does it quit being a coincidence? One of my favorite sayings.
Yeah. I said, my mom used to always say, coincidence is a term used by fools and liars throughout history.
Yeah. You were talking about past life, and we've had this conversation before, past life regression. And the whole being hypnotized, with my lost time thing. I just can't do it, man. I haven't gotten to that point where I can trust somebody rooting around in my head. I just can't do it.
With all respect, I respect that because you're able to admit that instead of trying to undergo the process when you really don't want to do it, and then it won't really work. You know what I mean? It's something that you do got to want to do because it's like really not the hypnotist in your head. It's you telling your own story to yourself. Right. It's really kind of a trip. Like when I'll get done with an Earthbound spirit release, right? And it'll be one of the last time was a person told me, "Oh, there's no way I have any of that stuff attached to me. I've done my shadow work." Okay. Yeah. And then we go through the process, and they got 8 of them attached to them. It takes me 2 hours to get them all crossed over. And then when it's over, you know what I mean? They're looking at me going, when they're normal conscious, going, but that was real. They were like right here on me. They always were. I was like, it's your body, your consciousness, not mine. You know what I mean? So it's, but it's just, one of those things. And it's, so I understand what you mean. Absolutely. And also something negative may have happened. It could be trauma that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And, and one problem I have with a lot of ways of therapy now is the way the client has to relive every bit of the trauma. Right. And relive it, and they get re-traumatized by it before the healing even begins.
Yeah.
It makes you look at more things, some of those energy methods that deal with ways that we can use visualization and imagination without reliving the event to get rid of these negative identities and things. It's more, I think that's more beneficial to people as a whole, not always reliving the trauma into that degree. It's more about getting rid of the way we react to situations that are similar to the trauma or similar to the people that traumatized us. We interact with them or situations similar, the negative identity reacts, and it always reacts in a way that's detrimental to the self. As to where our spirit is actually positive. The spirit responds in a way that's beneficial to the self. That's the difference. You know what I mean? But everything is, like I said, trauma walks around here so much, getting that negative identities. I'm sure a few of us will get, as soon as we get off this thing, somebody's going to go get, something's going to happen to get negative identity, some sort of trauma. You know what I mean? Or deal with some sort of jerk at work that just is just horrible, that just ruins your day. Yeah. That type of a thing, it's common. That keeps us drained, keeps our emotions flare, so we remain food for these invisibles.
Go ahead, Tyler. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, because you've done so many of these, past life regressions and hypnosis sessions for so many different reasons. Have you ever been doing that with somebody? And you talk about, these attachments that they have. And I'm curious, have you ever been helping somebody and found and ran across an attachment that is like, whoa, this is like evil on a whole nother level, and they didn't even know it was there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
I don't want to give any names or anything, but
no, like, for example, during the process I used to identify earthbound spirits and then cross them, there's certain questions that I'll ask that demonic and negative entities can't answer. Like a simple one is their name. What's your name? Mm-hmm. As quickly as you and I can say our name now, earthbound spirits are quick because they've been wanting to talk to somebody. That's why they joined, But these negatives, not so quick. They'll come up with something eventually, but it's not a snap response that it should be. You know what I mean? And other things they'll do that are ways to try to deceive. And what I do, as opposed to trying to be quote unquote Max von Sydow and the Exorcist, I just get rid of them. Okay, I get rid of them and then, and go on with the other earthbounds. And it took a second. I didn't come across them at first. I had done, a couple of them I had done. This is years ago now, but a couple of them I'd done. Some of these earthbounds were telling me, I'd heard about you. What do you mean you heard about me? Yeah, I heard you're bad. I said, well, why am I bad? Because you're going to make me leave and make the others leave. And who told you that? The others that left before, the others that were in this body that left before you came. But they said when you're gone, they're going to come back. Wow. And that's why I tell people, oh God, please do the protections. But it took me a minute to catch on. I was like, well, okay, so these cats are talking the other side, but those are more the demonic saying that. And the thing about earthbound spirits is this text is that a lot of times they're attached to a part of the human body, but they express themselves as negative behavior patterns. So people won't know that they're attached. As a medium, I can't see them from the outside. It's not like that. They're all inside the person's energy field, but they're expressing themselves as negative behavior patterns. A lot of times the one that caused them to die or they're holding on at that time that stops them from crossing over, and they express that out of the person, and it ruins the person's, normally their life, their health, and all these other things. So in that way, it's a type of possession. But you come across one of those demonic ones, they'll say some horrible things they're trying to do to the person. I'm trying to get them to kill themselves. I'm going to try and do this and do that. And it's beyond what even an earthbound would say. Now, it can be a little sticky area because we have these people on this planet that's just like you, humans like me and you, but they're just horrible people. Negative, they do these horrible things, and then they die, and they're full of hate, full of rage, and then they die and they turn into something worse. You know what I mean? So we've got that too. But these negatives, yeah. And and sometimes I tell people that's why I just get rid of them. I don't try to taunt them and try to do some sort of battle with them. I get rid of them, send them on their way, and then help the ones that want to cross over. Because believe it or not, a lot of the earthbounds cross over fairly easy. They're lost, somewhat easy. They're lost souls. And it's not always the big battle that you think if you don't come in, and we're talking like we're talking now, and don't come in, leave, because you know what I mean. And when you approach somebody like that, how do you like it? You say, hey man, that starts that whole thing. Opposed to something that's more like cognitive behavioral, which is talking and trying to help someone that's lost, help them find their way. And that's important. That's why I've got some people that got really upset with me because, the light is a trick and it's a reincarnation cycle, yada, yada. And they can't prove it. They've not done any of the work that we're talking about right now. They're listening to somebody else that's listening to somebody else that might have demonic attachments. You know what I mean? And in that way right there, and I can say this, like, what happens in the light? I can't tell you everything, but I had one just before, because I stopped seeing people a couple months ago. I'm re-engaging now. But one of the last people I had done, they had a bunch of earthbound spirits attached to them. They're kind of a medium empathic. And there were a bunch of family members attached to them that had passed from when they were a little kid. And this person's older than me, but they've been attaching family members like that they knew. You know what I mean? And I crossed over like the first one. And by the time I got to the third one, they're seeing, and I'm a medium. I can see the portal, whether it's over here, over there. I can see it, and I can see sometimes there'll be people that'll come to the light. And in the earthbounds can't see it until you start talking about the love of the Creator and talking about love. And then they start being able to see what was already there. And I don't give the suggestion, hey, Tex, do you see those people standing in there, Tex? You know, I mean, I don't do that. That's too suggestive. They will, they'll say, oh, what is it? Oh, well, there's my mother, there's my father. It'll be, you know, they've been there already, but they couldn't see them because they're lost without that love. So the light and the love are connected. There's no way around it. And that is a tunnel to get to wherever we're going for our next existence, which is one of choice. I do these regressions, and I've asked every person to do these regressions when they tell me they're about to reincarnate somewhere else, and not always as a person. They may go to the Andromeda Galaxy or do something else or a whole other form of existence that's not familiar to us, all right? But not one of these people has told me that they were forced to go there. And I ask, because a guide will come and help them go through the life that they just lived. And when they're about to reincarnate, do whatever, I say, is the guide making you go over there? No. Is the light making you do it? No, it's my choice. In fact, the response I get is like, I'm almost stupid for asking. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's important that people need to know, but if people haven't done the work, they don't really know. If they're not a medium, they don't know. If they haven't had a real near-death experience, they don't know. And even if you've had these things, still don't mean you know, but it's a better playing field than not. Right. I'm certainly not going to listen to somebody that has not had that, because they're part of, they work for this and that institute or something, and they looked at it, they remote viewed it, and they're saying this and that. No, what do we know about those people that are viewing that? How do they protect themselves? What problems do they have with dark entities in their own lives? We don't know.
You know what?
I'm just keeping it real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Barry Littleton's our guest. Go check out Barry Littleton on YouTube. I said we're going to have a smorgasbord of entrees for the show. And we're going all over and keeping it real, because Barry does keep it real. And we were talking about dreams. And Barry, you never heard this. Tex heard this before, but Barry, I never told you this. I want your interpretation of this.
Sure.
Because I respect your opinion and your thoughts throughout the things you've done throughout your lifetime. I'm a very vivid dreamer. I have a lot of dreams that to me seem like I'm there. Mm-hmm. I got something I got to share with you. I've shared this maybe once or twice on the show. I haven't had these dreams in a long time. Again, they're all over. My dreams are always with me starting somewhere I'm very familiar with, and I get lost. And then all of a sudden it gets dark. It starts like it always in Las Vegas or in a shopping mall, someplace I frequent. And I'm there having a good time wherever I'm at, and then I just get lost, and then I don't know where I'm going. I get scared. It turns dark. But then my father, who passed away 7-8 years ago, is always there to guide me out of where I'm lost. And then I wake up, the dream ends, and I say, thank you, Dad, because I was going in a place that the dream scared me. This was about 3 months ago. I had this very vivid dream, and I'm at the Flamingo Casino in Las Vegas, which I've been to 10, 12 times in my lifetime. My brother and sister-in-law have been there 10, 12 times. It's our favorite place to play poker. We play Texas Hold'em. I know a lot of the dealers. I know a lot of the bartenders, this, that, and the other. I had this dream that I'm playing poker in my same gaming area. And there was this really creepy guy. During my dream, I got this creepy vibe on this guy who was sitting to my right. And we got involved in a hand. And I knew I had the winning hand. In poker, they call it the nuts. I knew, there was like a 98% chance I would win. And I'm not going to go through all the cards that were played, this, that, and the other, and the bets involved. But the guy beat me with 666. He beat what I had. And I'm like, there's no way. The odds of him hitting that are terrible. I lost. The guy looks at me. I get up. I get knocked out of. I think all the money I had during the dream I lost. So I said, well, I'm going to go do something else. I left the table. This guy follows me in this dream again, but it's still very familiar. It's very happy. It's a good dream. And this creepy dude who just beat me is following me. He puts his hand on my shoulder. I feel some guy put a hand on my shoulder in the dream, and it's this guy. And he goes, "You should have known I was going to get you." I go, "What are you talking about?" Then all of a sudden, the dream starts getting very dark, very dark. And then this guy turns into my dad, who always helps me and is very positive in my dream. My dad reaches out, "I have to get you out of here." I reach out to my dad. Very comforting. I felt so good, my dad in my dream. And then all of a sudden, he pulls me, and my dad morphs into a demonic-looking creature and says, "I'm pulling you to the gates of hell, Robbie." I snap out of it. I wake up in a cold sweat, right? I'm terrified of this dream. And again, my dreams are vivid. When this dream happened, Barry, it's about 3:30 in the morning, and I went on YouTube and I did a live show because I just wanted to speak on that it was fresh in my memory, and I want to tell the people that wanted to join me and listen to my story, listen to it, because I was that scared. I was by myself, no outlet. I wanted to speak on this. The friends of mine were all sleeping, didn't want to wake them up, so I just went live just to expound on this. It just so happens that my brother and sister-in-law were in Las Vegas during this dream. Yeah, I knew they were there, but I didn't put two and two together. And they do follow my channel. They happen to be in their bedroom, and they got the alert notice on their phone. They said, "Rob's on late. It's 3:30 in the morning here in Vegas," or whatever time it was in Vegas. Wow, let's watch Rob. They know my normal schedule, but this is offbeat, unscheduled show. And they're watching the show, and I just told the story that I just told you and everybody listening. They called me on the phone, and they got kind of scared. "Rob, wow, that's a crazy dream. Wow." And we're talking. And so Karen says, "Me and Dave are going to go to the Flamingo just because we got this feeling that we should go to the Flamingo where you just supposedly were in your dream playing cards, losing to that creepy dude." I go, "Yeah, just go down there." Barry, this is what really flips my noodle. It bakes my noodle, as they say in what's in one of the Keanu Reeves says in The Matrix, bakes your noodle. You remember the medium in a movie, for those who follow the Matrix series. They go down to the Flamingo, my brother and Karen. Now we hang up the phone. I said, "Yeah, let me know what's going on." I go back to bed. They call me up. They were at the Flamingo. And again, I said, everybody at the Flamingo, a lot of the bartenders know me, and my brother and my sister-in-law, the car dealers know us. And one of the bartenders came up to Dave and Karen. This is live, real time. They're in Vegas physically. They said, "We just saw your brother lose a hand of cards." And got up, got flustered, and walked away from the table. Are you guys here with them? My brother and sister looked and said, "No, he's not here." So my sister Karen starts taking pictures. She takes her camera or her phone, and she starts panning the entire, just flipping all these pictures. They call me up, say, "Rob, you're not going to believe this, man, but somebody said they seen you here losing the cards like you just said on your channel. We know you're at home." I go, "I am at home." And then she goes to pull up the pictures on her phone. And you know how we all have our phones. Anytime you take a picture, you get it. Every single picture she took was in a continual circle. They never went through. They were never able to send to me, and they never got them on their phone. My question to you, I know it's I don't know that you have the answers. Did I have an out-of-body experience? How does that happen? A person at the casino saw me playing cards, told my brother and sister. I dreamt that.
I can't really explain that part, man. But as far as the beings that you're dealing with, when you start practicing like these dream gates,
yeah,
ultimately,
well, I
what
told
that
you I
to,
tried to learn how to astral project, which I kind of almost got there, and then I got scared and I stopped. I don't know if I told you that, but anyways.
And the dream body can project itself. It doesn't conform to the same physical parameters as this body. So for your dream body to be there and do something like that is something that could have been picked up by somebody if they were psychic. Okay. Wow. But more to the point, when you go through these gates of dreaming and you figure out eventually it comes through, like, because the final thing is you see yourself there sleeping and you realize you can be in two places at once.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. But you realize that, that you can see yourself sleeping and you realize that's when you realize you can be in two places at once. Well, and then that's part of, what is dream attention is actually putting all your cognitive abilities into the dream body. But once you go past that, the last thing is you realize that when you pass that gate, basically you're in the middle of an electron impulse in your brain and a bunch of phantasmagorical images. And once you get rid of that, these phantom images, it's a matter of seeing what beings in your field of perception are generating energy. Okay, those are the inorganic beings that are, like, sometimes they're called allies, sometimes they're demonic, but there are different types of them, but they're the ones that are hiding and using those phantasmagorical images and impulses of our brain. And the ones that are, like, they call allies, unquote, could be like, something that's odd in your dream, something really odd. And once you can focus dream attention on it, it can morph into an energy or something, and it's an inorganic being. But the others, the worst ones, show up as people we know and love. And they're the ones that do horrible stuff to you when you dream about, like your dad or whoever, doing something horrible to you in dream that they would never do. Right. Like, why in the world are you doing this to me? Because they're flaring your emotions. They're feeding on you. Okay, you know what I mean? And they're using the phantasmagorical images to mask themselves. And I think that's what you were experiencing there. Well, it's weird because when you tell me about this being itself, that said it knew it was going to get you. Yeah, it's very odd because I started picking up your Sasquatch, man. Oh, with the morphing face. You know what I mean? And there's just something that was demonic about both of these events.
So as I was telling you that story, you picked up something, and which related back to, once again, my Sasquatch. Go.
Yeah, it's weird because I think that the pictures you have of that thing morphing its face says a lot. It really does. The images you had drawn of that.
Yes.
And and when you start looking at demonic entities throughout history, they morph their faces like that. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. And and the reason why that happened, the way it seemed to be connected to a haunted location, all the things we talked about, and negative things came from that. Why hit you with that infrasound? You weren't even near them.
Yeah.
That thing, you were out there in the water. You got this other thing pursuing you throughout your dream realities. And it told you that. Brother, it doesn't get much more direct than that. It told you, oh, you knew I was going to get you. That's pretty direct.
Pretty direct. And for those that never seen the rendition, I'll just show them really quickly. I don't think I can. Oh, there they are. That's good. Oh, that's by Sibylla Irwin. The one on the left is one that I saw. Well, I saw them both. It's the same one. The one that I saw briefly, and then it morphed into that thing, which again, that's about 93% accurate. What I saw June 15th of 2018. Sibylla Irwin. We did a show on that. We discussed that. And that is pretty damn close to what I saw, everybody. So thanks for bringing that up, because I never thought about that.
We did that show. First thing you said to me was, you said it looked demonic to me. Yep. And it did that. It's exactly what you said.
And it did. And today I won't call it a demon, but I don't know what the hell I call that, Barry. To this day, it's a mystery to me, man. I saw something physical yet morph into something metaphysical, or something, as I always say, demonic. And again, for those listening, I'm not saying Sasquatch is a demon. I'm not, but that's that's what happened to me, and that's I was thinking to my story. I can't change it because I've learned things. At the time, that's what happened.
I was talking to somebody recently, and it was saying how that as some of them may be manifested beings, some of these types of Sasquatch, and that or to actually use their paranormal abilities, that you deal with science, that energy has to come from somewhere. And sometimes these flashes of light are seen by them. But also when you have a situation, especially like young people, some of these Sasquatch will show up and just scare the hell out of them. For what reason? It's like they generate that fear, and it's like, are some of these beings using that fear for manifestation or for paranormal abilities? And I believe that's why they're sucking the energy out of the batteries. I don't think it's just a natural phenomenon. I think they're using that energy and they're taking it. That's what I believe. You know what I mean? That what they use for manifestation, and because that energy has to come from somewhere. Like that's the problem I always had with the Hulk. Much as I like the Hulk, okay, especially Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. Heck, just make Lou Ferrigno again at the other Comic-Con. A little bit disappointed he's not that tall. He's, you know what I mean? But anyway, but point being, where would that energy come from? Not just because he's pissed, okay? That's not enough. To have energy to grow and blow your body like that, there'd be air around him would be going pow, 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 pow. There'd be flashes of light and all sorts of stuff. That energy has to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? Of course, it's just a comic book, so I'll let that go. But you know what I mean, though. I always look at I'm skeptical on many things, but I look at reality and things also.
And it's really, I know Tex wants to chime in, but really briefly before I forget too, you're mentioning about seeing yourself in a dream, similar to, well, obviously that dream I just told you about. I told you that, well, I don't know if I told you this. Several months prior to that dream, I did try to teach myself how to astral project. I was reading a bunch of things. I was doing these meditations. It went on for several weeks into a month where I wasn't getting nothing. And so I just gave up on it. Then one night, man, I did this meditation. I guess I recharged my brain or whatever, my focus. And I'm in front of the TV, and all of a sudden, Barry, I'm sitting in this recliner, kick back, watching something on TV. And then all of a sudden I shut it off and went back to that meditation. And then all of a sudden, man, I was crawling down the hallway floor. I remember this distinctly, just like yesterday. I was crawling on hands and knees. Then I got down into like a military thing, and I was doing on my belly type thing. Then I get up back to my hands and knees, and I look back over my right, and I'm thinking, Rob, what are you doing? You nuts? What are you doing? Reverting back to your hide and seek games with the kids, right? I look back over my right shoulder. I'm sitting in the recliner watching TV in the meditation. Freaked me out, and I woke up immediately back in the chair. So some people suggested I was kind of on the verge of maybe projecting astrally or whatever. I don't know. I know I was poking around with it and trying to do it from reading various books and crap on the internet and listening to other shows. And I don't think I'm going to do that again, because that really scared the crap out of me, though, man.
Well, here's the thing, okay? And especially in youth, man, I tried all sorts of paranormal techniques.
Yeah.
Pranayama stuff, Dr. Thine techniques, Castaneda. I mean, I tried all sorts of stuff. And I would try them for a while. And if they didn't produce immediate third dimensional results for me, I go on to something different and tried other techniques. After, only give so much energy to each one. And something I was unprepared for is that sometimes when you put energy into some of these techniques and practices, these metaphysical ones, there's a time lag, and the stuff started manifesting like years later. And more than that, I couldn't control it. And when I say that, like, for example, man, I learned all about invisibility, how to trick the human eye to be invisible first. That's how the ninja did it. Okay. That's the first technique. Learn how the eye actually operates. And that puts people at a serious disadvantage. That we see movement first, then silhouette, then color. And most of us, we have a line of sight that is only about a foot, 2 feet above and below what we see, unless we catch something and peripherals in black and white. Just knowing the things that I told you right there, although we don't think it is. That's why you often see spirits in peripheral. Okay. But just knowing that puts a person at serious disadvantage when you want to practice invisibility. Okay. But the next is a technique to try to create an orgone electron field around you that absorbs the light. Okay. There's techniques you can try. And I tried this stuff, man. And outside of doing like basically the more ninja type of techniques, the other stuff wasn't working. So I got ticked off and I go to something else, man, eventually, after practicing that so long. And then years later, I start experiencing what's called involuntary invisibility. Human spontaneous spontaneous human invisibility. I started experiencing this. And one time people were with me and they started telling me, like, what the hell happened to you? You're in a trip. What do you mean? I said, man, I turned around. You just were gone. You know, a friend of mine had come to me and say, you know, he's owned a bar like you, Rob. And he's a kind of Littleton. He looks like Larry Mondello from Leave It to Beaver. We went to high school together. He says, Littleton, I just have to watch you, Littleton, because you come to the bar sometimes you just disappear like them. I said, what do you mean like them? He said, Mo, you came in one day and you said some things about he had his partner that went to this other school, but he died while they owned the bar. And he said, you came in and told me some things that Matt was kind of saying before he died or something. It was really odd. And I turned around to give you a beer and you were gone. And he said, the only people that does that is them. I said, what do you mean them? And his bar was downtown in Old Town. Okay. Yeah. And he says, man, they're these, he said, they're creatures or something. They look like people, but they come into the bar and they never order anything. They stand around and look around for a while, and then they just disappear. You blink your eye and they're not there. And right after that, within minutes, their fights will start erupting in the bar out of nowhere. He goes, I think they come and stir up crap, man. And he said, I think they go around in these buildings down here. But anyway, sorry, that's taking it too far. But no, that's fine. I was talking about spontaneous invisibility. Now we're talking about old spirits in Old Town, man. Anyway, that reminds me of you a little bit with your story. But anyway, that's one of those things that there was a time lag. So you're out practicing these things, astral projecting, and you may not have thought you were doing it, and then you're having these things are coming with a time lag, and it's uncontrollable. Things that are happening within your biofield. You know, sometimes we as people, like the negative self I was talking about, so much of our energy is trapped there that we can create poltergeists that haunts our own self and we don't know it. Some of the activity around us is coming from our own energy field because it's the poltergeist that's projecting outside of our body. You don't think it's you, but we're that powerful. You know what I mean? So in that way, you may have been doing that. Your energy was completely in the dream body, and your dream body was sitting there trying to play. You know what I mean? And you thought it was there because in your kind of ability, you was really there, right?
Right.
You were sitting there like, I'm dreaming right now. It wasn't like that. He was living it, right? Yeah. Yeah. If you remember Dreamscape, when he go into other people's dreams, other cats didn't know they was dreaming, man. He's in there tripping out, looking around, you know. The one dude's going to find to chase his wife is cheating on him. And he's looking at him. Are you scared, kid? They're going to go in the house and looks at him. No. He said, you got to watch him. You got to watch him every minute. He had no idea he's dreaming, you know. So just situation like that. But that, you know, is ability you may have that was starting to manifest itself. So don't think when you were doing the technique that it wasn't working at all. You have evidence there that it did work. Just because there's a time lag on it, you know what I mean? Okay. Doesn't mean it didn't work. Or we say produce effects. Let's say that.
Got you. That does make some sense. Thanks for that. That was.
You know, me and Brent were doing a show last night. And we were talking about stuff that happened to us when we were kids, and you know, imaginary friends that we had when we were kids, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to describe the experience that I used to have when I was really, really, really little. And it was like I would get into a different frame of mind when I was going to sleep. And it was like there was these two entities, and they were like, the best way I can describe them is they were like dark colored Stay Puft marshmallow men. Okay. But the sensation that you would get would be like a very soft and welcoming and it would envelop you. And it was like something it was like a big balloon, but it was like filled with something very, very soft. And it was like taking a pin and pushing it in, but it never popped. But it was like that pinhole going into this big, it's so hard to explain. But there was two entities that I always saw. I always had these visions of them, I guess you could say. And one was big and one was smaller. They weren't like humanoid. They were, but they weren't. But they were just big and bulky, and I never was scared. I even had names for them. But it was just such a weird sensation, and I had that growing up. And then it started to fade as I got older. But I found out several months ago, because I got thinking about it, and I'm like, I wonder if I can have that sensation again. And I just let myself go, and trying to get in a very relaxed state and everything. And I'll be damned if I wasn't able to achieve that sensation again. I have no idea what that is.
Did you encounter them after you can actually probably call them? It's odd as you're telling me the story. I keep seeing visions of actually not the Stay Puft, not the soft man, but I keep seeing the Mycelium man.
Mycelium man,
that's interesting. Yeah. And a smile, the Mycelium man. I think these are some type of guides, perhaps protectors you have. I pick up like dream protectors. Okay. It's so interesting because when we're kids, that is the most important thing. You're right there saying that you're psychic and also probably have a medium too. Every medium is a psychic, but every psychic is not a medium. But when we're kids, that's important. A lot of us had invisible friends, ones you could see.
Yeah.
And then what happens? You're playing with them or you're talking to them, and finally an adult came around. Oh, don't be doing that. People are going to say you're crazy. They'll lock you up. And you start getting molded away from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm not getting into that because that's a whole other 20 minutes. That happened to my niece when she was 5 or 6. It ended up being a poltergeist.
Tex, what you could do is, protect yourself and bring up that feeling again, then using your creative visualization to envision those beings and call them. You know what I mean? They weren't your enemies. You do it to try. And if something goes wrong, you can, get rid of them, but just protect yourself before you do it. But what you're talking about, that's the empathic ability, that feeling that they gave you. That's how you can call them. You know what I mean? That's their signature, so to speak. So yeah, give it a shot because they sound like they're guides to me. And ask them when they come around, ask them, communicate with them. They were standing with you all the time. There's a reason you can remember them. And it went over into this cognitive third dimensional thing. You know what I mean? So yeah. Cool. It's cool. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. It's pretty neat.
Appreciate that.
Always great, Barry. It's always great. And I got to ask you, because I got a friend of mine in Texas that I haven't talked to in a while. Had one quick question, and we can close on this just to get your insight. This has been done ad nauseum on a lot of channels and that, but I'll just get your take quick because it's from Rocky Stucci. Remember Rocky from Rocky Stucci Media? Tex, you probably remember Rocky.
Oh, yeah, Rocky.
Hey, Rocky. I don't know if he's still here, but he's got his own media platform. He's a pretty cool guy. You can find him on Facebook at Rocky Stucci Media. He asks, Jens, it's an uptick in activity all since the drone activity. I think we can close out on that one because I never did get your take, Barry, on it. We've done ours ad nauseum, but what's your thoughts on that, bro?
I kind of stand, Jessica remote viewed that too as a blind target, but I kind of am of the feeling too that was not just extraterrestrials as much as humans and back engineering and things that we have access to, whether it's nuclear or whatever the case. But I think that it was also used as a marker because it happened right around election time. And ever since elections and everything has ramped up. I mean, intensely. You know what I mean? And everything from UFO activity to them giving disclosure to deja vu feelings to, I mean, everything's to wildfires and everything else. It seems ramping up. So I would have to agree with that. The drones were, synonymous with that happening as well. So, and it's like you both mentioned earlier, 2025 is, man, for what are we, like 35 days into this crap in 40 days? And this has been just, man, gosh, it's rough already, man. Lord, with a lot of blessings need to go out, a lot of blessings. Lord.
Yeah, and I got some things going on. I got some 2025 has been terrible so far for a lot of personal folks of mine, and hopefully it all turns out. It's only well, hell, we're going to be coming on March here pretty soon in another 2 weeks already.
Yeah.
As time flies, I find, which kind of sucks, time flies by when you get over 50.
Yeah. Well, sucks. The worst is anybody that we knew was cool when we were teenagers is like 80 years old now. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah. Monica Quartermain from General Hospital just died. I mean, what else do you need to that, man?
Yeah,
like that sucks.
Hey, I will admit to that, Beer. I just watched a little General Hospital in a day. I remember the Luke and Laura wedding way back. Remember that?
Yep.
And then Sonny, good old gangster Sonny came out
on a serious note,
yeah,
that actor Maurice Bernard that plays Sonny Corinthos still to this day.
Yeah.
On Sundays, he does a really good show called State of Mind. Now, here's what you might not know. He's bipolar too in real life. And I remember rushing home in 91 to watch when he first came on General Hospital. He was on there for a little bit, his sucky character, but he disappeared. He had a mental breakdown in real life and got institutionalized in a straitjacket. And so he talks about that, and he plays Sonny as bipolar. But on Sundays, he does these really good shows called State of Mind, where he interviews other actors, some on General Hospital, some just famous people that have mental health problems. And, he got like Jackie Zeman, Bobby, and she died not long after that interview. Then he did Monica Quartermain. She died not long after that. Man. The guy that played Nicholas Cassadine, he died not long after their interview.
Really? Wow.
And then the other guy, the guy that was Corbin somebody on there, he got off the show just recently. He got shot coming out of the bar. He was a bartender. He come out, these guys are ripping off his catalytic converter. And when you see the interview they do, Maurice starts talking, he goes, it was so weird, we're having camera problems. And there's this aura over that Corbin guy, like this aura over the whole thing. He told me, he said, who cares? Let's just go with it. So it looks like he's sitting there talking with this aura on him. And I'm not saying he's not cursing the people. It's just he has the habit of interviewing these people about mental health stuff before they wind up passing. And sometimes the most powerful stuff we give out happens just before we pass. Think about Dr. King or whoever it might be. They do things incredible just before they pass.
Well,
and that's when the energy goes out.
I got to remember to turn down any interviews with him. Good gosh.
Which one?
I don't want him interviewing me.
With Sonny.
No. I don't. I think it's just coincidence. He's not hexing people or anything.
Right.
But I mean, it's weird. It's like it gives the people a last chance to, kind of for people to get to know them and stuff. It's really kind of cool.
Hey, you know what's cool is Midnight Smoker has been a subscriber for a while. I did not know Midnight Smoker is 22 years old. Midnight Smoker, thanks first of all for bringing youth to the show. So hit up all your friends because I got to pick up that algorithm for you 22-year-old people. About 10% that are 20 to 30 watch the show. The rest are old geezers. So come on. I'm kidding for everybody listening. I'm kidding. I'm an old geezer myself, But yeah, if you're in your 20s, man, I'd love to have you come on the show. Or watch the show, subscribe if you guys like this stuff. So thanks, Midnight. And thanks to all my old friends in the chat room. I'm sorry. I know we're all right around the same age around here. Barry's is the spring chicken on the panel tonight, I think.
I don't know about that.
No, you were watching GH.
Lights
So
crack, man. It holds up. That's all it is.
Yeah,
as young as I look, though.
but my old secret's out. I was a big General Hospital fan. I used to love when the internet came out and had my first laptop. I went back and watched all the history. I watched every episode, man. And every once in a while, if I'm home, I'll flip it on. You know,
I'll tell you, I was a big fan of the early '90s of the Ryan Chamberlain thing when he first came on, the serial killer thing, and that was great. The great days, man. You know, my mom got me hooked on watching General Hospital in '78, and then she also watched Dynasty and Dallas. So I used to watch those two.
I did too. John Forsythe. Oh my god!
Since we're about done with the show, I'll say this before we're done here. I was also one of their brothers. In '91, I watched some 90210, but I was one of those brothers that was lying and say he didn't. You know what I mean? Say, you watch that shit? No, heck no, I don't watch that crap, man. We was tearing it up, man. Watch some Melrose Place too. Wouldn't tell nobody. Yeah.
I watched them all, Barry.
It was a definitely not cool black man show to watch. So, but at least watch me. Yeah.
Hey, Barry, the brother was he was a closet watcher. He just want to tell you, man. You know, I mean. And Dallas, who shot Jay? Oh my God! Anyway, you're taking me down a road I dare not travel.
Yeah, I remember that quite well. And what you talk about General Hospital too, that's how I got hooked. Luke and Laura run around LA looking for a piece of crystal, right? Yeah.
Such outrageous shows. But you know, they hit the pulse of what people wanted, and we all wanted Fantasyland at that time of the day.
You know, some of the TV shows that came out back then too, for what we're dealing with now, should be really paid attention to, the ones that didn't make it long. And I don't mean Bigfoot and Wild Boy, that was terrible, but they did show Bigfoot having the ability to run 60 mile per hour more. And also another one there's another story, The Powers of Matthew Starr, that with Lucy Gossett Jr. was.
I've been watching that one. I've been watching that one.
There's another one that I really like, The Phoenix with Judson Scott. You remember that where he had the necklace? Yeah. He's supposed to be from Aldeburgh. But they only made like 2 seasons. And they made Starman into a series too. Yeah. Wasn't as good as the movie, but just interesting era that was, you know.
I've been watching Time Tunnel.
Oh wow, really? Right on, right. You know, I'll tell you what else, because that guy just died. He played Vic on DS9. The guy that was, and there's another one that I was watching. It's with the guy, Eric Hexum, that shot himself in the head with the blank and actually killed himself in real life. It was Time. He's got the watch, man, and the watch, Time Agents or something like that. But he's got the watch and he's with the kid, and they'll go jumping around almost like a time quantum leap, but they're using the time travel thing. Yeah, I should know the name of it now. Anyway,
I even watched some of the Land of the Giants.
Oh wow, I remember that. That's got to be pretty hard to find, you know.
I tell you what, the '80s was great TV series if you're into that, because yes, I liked all those shows, and they really made your imagination, you know. It made you think, right? Out of the box type of thinking, despite they weren't Bigfoot, but they were about just all these storylines were just so ridiculous. They were incredible. You know, I mean, they really were. I loved them. I loved that stuff. But
you know, in 1987, there was a show that came out when Fox first started. Their first shows were 21 Jump Street, Married with Children, The Tracy Ullman Show, and another show called Werewolf. And Werewolf starred Chuck Connors as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And so the guy that's on General Hospital, John York, Max Scorpio.
Yeah.
And you know, that was a really good show. It only lasted like not even 2 seasons, I don't think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But the way they portrayed the werewolf themselves, as it was both a curse and a disease, genetic. It's very interesting. You know what I mean? And I remember them having a 1-800 number you could call in if you ever thought you had experienced a real werewolf or something.
God.
Yeah, just little stuff like that comes up, and you know, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Ace remembers that show. Thanks for everybody for coming on in today. It's been a fantastic show. Hit the like button on your way out if not already. And Barry, where can we find you, brother?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't look over at the chat. I apologize to people in there. I was too busy talking. I'm on like you said, I've got a really hip name for my YouTube channel. It's Barry Littleton, and I'm on Facebook under another another handle, Barry Littleton on Facebook, and I'm on Patreon also, and I have a website, it's barrylittleton.com, but I don't update it or do anything on there. So YouTube and Facebook are a pretty good place to catch me, or Instagram. Easy. I'm on there too.
It's very easy. Barry Littleton. Type it on all your social media, and you'll find Barry. You know.
And my email, if anybody's wanting services, I am starting to see people again. It's barrylittleton13@gmail.com. In fact, under my name is my YouTube channel right there. So
okay, sweet, awesome. Been a fantastic show, and don't forget, if you are new, please subscribe to BMR Text, the Blondes and the Booze. Tonight, me and Tex will be in for the Blondes and the Booze. We got a Brown Dwarf coming on, right, Tex? Is that correct? Am I correct with that?
I believe so, yep.
So, yeah, me and Tex are filling in. Chris has got personal business as well as Brandy. So, me and Tex are going to take Thursday night for the girls, and we're going to welcome Brown Dwarf for that show. Again, please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to our channels across the board. Love you. Thanks to Keith for the super chat. Thank you once again to Barry. I love having Barry on. Barry's he's on every couple months. We love having him, and appreciate you, Barry, for taking the time out of your day, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you both. Thank you, everybody in chat.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And until next time, for Tex, for Barry, BMR, we're out. If I hit the right button. I hit the wrong button.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.